It was a couple of weeks ago when something happened that I can't quite shake off. And despite trying to convince myself otherwise, I'm pretty sure it's still happening. I don't live in the middle of nowhere, but my house sits on the outskirts of a nature-filled suburb, surrounded by trees, wildlife, and all the things you'd expect in a quiet neighborhood. It's the kind of place where people still wave at each other, and the silence is only broken by birds and the occasional dog barking. On one side, our property borders a small wooded area, more of a wooded patch, really. It's only about a quarter-mile from my house to the neighboring road, and that road leads to a larger street, beyond which lies a massive body of water. It's one of those places that's not really a lake, not quite a reservoir either, but big enough to make you wonder what it's really for. Growing up, I thought it was a reservoir. It looked like one, with no trespassing signs and government property warnings scattered along the fence. But here's the thing. I've looked it up on Google Maps. No mention of a reservoir. No official name. Nothing. It felt strange, like there was a whole side to it that no one was telling us. Over the years, that mystery has stuck with me. My siblings and I often talked about it, each of us guessing what it could be. Some days, I wonder if it's really just a mistake, or if it's been kept secret for a reason. I'd always drive past it, trying to glimpse anything that might explain the secrecy, but it remained a place of unanswered questions. As part of the varsity cross-country team at school, I'm always looking for good running spots. That wooded patch has become my go-to route, a peaceful 2-mile loop through the trees, along the road by the water, and then back again. It's a lot quieter than running in my actual neighborhood, where the roads are narrow and people drive way too fast. In the mornings, the light filters through the leaves, and the quiet feels almost sacred. There's something calming about the woods, almost like a private sanctuary where the world can't reach you. But I wasn't prepared for what was about to happen. The woods that had always been so peaceful, so tranquil, were about to show me something terrifying. So, one afternoon, just before the season picked up, I went for my usual run. I could have sworn I heard rustling behind me on the way back through the woods, but I shrugged it off as an animal. It wasn't uncommon to hear squirrels, raccoons, or even a deer moving through the underbrush. The sound was faint, but it lingered in my mind. As I finished my run and made my way home, I tried to brush it off, focusing on the rhythm of my steps. But that night, things got weird. The storm came out of nowhere, thick and oppressive, like the air had suddenly thickened with some kind of dread. I was about to forget about the run when the sound of crying cut through the storm like a knife. I always sleep with my windows open, especially during the summer. I love listening to the sound of rain, and that night, a massive thunderstorm rolled in. The rain came down so hard that it felt like the world was being drowned in it. The thunder cracked so loudly it shook the walls, and the wind howled through the trees like a warning. I lay there, listening to the storm, starting to drift off when I heard it. The sound was so faint, I thought I might be imagining it at first. Maybe it was just the wind. But no, it was the sound of someone crying, and it sounded human. Not the distant sound of thunder, this was close. My heart began to race. I couldn't place the source, but it was unmistakable. It was real at first, it was soft. Maybe it was part of the storm, but no. It was the sound of someone crying, and it sounded human. Not the distant sound of thunder, this was close. I strained to listen, and it became clearer. A soft female voice whispered through the rain, "Can you help me? I'm cold." I couldn't move. Every part of my body screamed to stay still, but my mind was already racing, trying to figure out what to do. Who was out there in this storm? Why couldn't I hear them clearly? I've never moved faster in my life. It was like my body just reacted before my brain could catch up. I bolted out of bed, ran to the front door, and sprinted around the side of the house. The rain hit me like 1,000 needles, but I didn't care. I needed to check. There was something wrong. And then I saw her. Huddled under my bedroom window, a woman in a white gown, her form barely visible in the storm. I approached, asking if she needed help, my voice shaking. But what happened next was something I'll never forget. I took a tentative step forward, each movement measured, unsure of what I'd find. My mind raced through scenarios, but none of them prepared me for what happened. As soon as she noticed me, she sprang up, charging at me with a speed I didn't expect. The air felt thick, like time slowed down. I braced myself, but mid-stride, she suddenly veered away, running towards the woods with an impossible speed. She was barefoot and running faster than someone should be able to in the middle of a storm. My heart was pounding in my chest as I stood there, stunned, watching her disappear into the dark. I didn't follow. I just stood there in shock, soaking wet, and went back inside. I woke my dad, told him what had happened, but he wasn't much help. We checked the house, locked everything down, and debated calling the police. But by then, it was after midnight. We figured the woman would be gone by the time they arrived. What if it was all just some bizarre misunderstanding? Maybe it was just some drunk person, or someone who had gotten lost in the storm. But deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was more. We locked the doors and windows, double-checked everything, but my heart wouldn't settle. I couldn't stop thinking about it. What if she was in real danger? The next few days passed without incident. We chalked it up to either a homeless person or someone having a breakdown. But then, things took a darker turn. I couldn't go back to my normal routine without feeling on edge, and that unease only grew. A week later, during another run, I saw her again, or at least I thought I did. As I was running near that same road by the water, I glanced through the barbed wire fence surrounding the government property. There, sitting at the edge of the water, was the woman. My breath caught in my throat. This couldn't be real. How could she have gotten there? The fence was impossible to climb. I had checked it before. She should have been on the other side, but there she was, sitting by the water. Her eyes locking with mine the moment I noticed her. She stood up, ran toward the fence with that crazed look in her eyes. She pressed her face against the chain link, smiling, but not a normal smile. It was the kind of smile that chilled you to the bone, like she was reveling in something that wasn't meant to be understood. I tried to tell myself I was overreacting, that it was just a woman who had lost her way. But as soon as I yelled that I was calling the police, she did something that made my stomach drop. She turned and dove straight into the water. The act was so sudden, so wild, it felt like a nightmare come to life. I immediately called 911, explaining what I'd seen. They sent officers, but by the time they arrived, she was long gone, swimming out of sight. Now, I'm hearing noises outside my window at night. It's not crying anymore, but it's still unnerving. Footsteps, rustling, always just outside my window. The sounds are subtle, almost imperceptible, but they grow louder the longer I listen. I don't even want to run anymore. The idea of seeing her again, of encountering whatever this is, terrifies me. And I can't stop thinking about how she got over that fence. I've tried to convince myself it was a coincidence, but everything about this feels wrong. My cousin Nick, the conspiracy theorist, insists there's something the government is hiding about that body of water, and I think, deep down, he might be right. There's too much about it that doesn't add up.